today we are going to be learning and exploring the world of marsupials. We are going to be learning about what makes them special, as well as where they live in the world and so many more. Before we begin, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Titiksha and I am a student at the University of Toronto. I actually study biology, which means that I learn about humans, plants, and animals, and I find it very fascinating. So today I will be teaching you about marsupials, and I hope I make you guys think that biology is interesting as well. So today on our agenda, we will have the lesson first, which I will teach you about marsupials, and then we will have an activity time. So first, what are marsupials? So they are one group of mammals. So in this big category of mammals, there are actually three groups that it has been broken down into, and marsupials happen to be one of them. So marsupials are the same as mammals, they just have something special about them that has allowed them to form their own group. So when we look at the characteristics of marsupials now, remember that these characteristics also apply to most other mammals as well. So marsupials are vertebrates, so that means they have a backbone, and this helps to support their body. Most marsupials also have fur. So when we look at this picture here, we can see a bunch of different marsupials, and they have fur covering their bodies. Now, most marsupials also give birth to a live young. We can also look at their diet. Now, as a young marsupial, they drink their mother's milk, and this helps them to grow big and strong. So, just as us when we are born, we need to drink a lot of our mother's milk in order for us to gain a lot of nutrients to grow big and strong. So as they grow older, these marsupials, they can eat bugs, plants, or meat, depending on what marsupial we are talking about. So in that figure there, we can see a koala chewing on a plant. The special feature about marsupials is that they have a pouch. Now, can you think of a well-known animal that has a pouch? Well, the first marsupial that comes to my mind is a kangaroo. We can see it has its baby inside of its pouch there. But there are way more marsupials out there. And so here are a few examples of some. So we have the kangaroo. Now the red kangaroo is thought to be the largest marsupial in the world. We can also see a koala here, an opossum, a wombat, and a sugar glider. So all of these are different examples of marsupials. And you can also see by looking at all these images, they have fur covering their body, which actually shows us that these are all mammals too. Now, what makes a marsupial special? It is the fact that they have a pouch, and they use this pouch for their young. So their young is born between 11 to 34 days. So that is really not enough time for them. So the babies are born really tiny. So these marsupial babies would stay inside their mother's pouch, continue to drink milk, and so that they can continue to grow. A fun fact is that these newborns are actually called joeys. A fun fact, can you guess the average size of a baby kangaroo when they are first born? Do you think they are the size of your shoe, the size of a banana, the size of a pencil, or the size of a grape? I'll give you a few seconds to think about it, but please feel free to pause the video. Well, I want to show you the picture of a baby kangaroo first. So that is it. As you can see, the baby kangaroo is really small as a newborn, and then it needs to stay inside its mother's pouch so that it can grow into a healthy joey, as we see in this picture over here. So the correct answer is that on average they are about the size of a grape, which is really tiny. So now we want to figure out, where do marsupials live? So we are going to go on a trip around the world to find out. So we're going to hop onto this magic school bus, and then we're going to count down from 5 to go. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go. So our first stop is Australia, and we can already see some kangaroos hopping around. Let's see what else we can find. We can find koalas in Australia in the trees. We can find pygmy possums in the mountain Alps. We can also find spotted quolls in forestry areas in Australia. We can find wombats also in this forest type of environment. And we can find sugar gliders up in the treetops. Now, as you can see, we find a lot of marsupials here. So we can find more than 200 species in Australia because it is the home to the most marsupials in the world. And most marsupials in Australia like to live in dry scrub or desert areas. Next stop, we're going to South America. So first we can see a water opossum here, and what's special about this species is that the males can also have a pouch, not just the females. We can also find a woolly opossum as well, and so sadly we can't find as many marsupials here, but in South America it contains different species of opossums, so they can live in deserts, tropical forests, alpine regions, or even in the water. Our last stop is North America, so this is home to only one marsupial, which is the Virginia opossum. So now that we explore the different habitats, now you can maybe observe their behaviors. So you can see a sugar glider gliding toward this individual's hand. So in its natural environment, when it's among the trees, it uses this thin layer of skin to glide from treetop to treetop. We can also see kangaroos jumping. Since it lives on the ground, it develops these strong legs so that it can hop on the ground and move to places quickly. We can also see a wombat over here hiding in its burrow, and if you look closely at its nails, it is very sharp so that it can dig into the ground to form these burrows to protect itself. So as you can see, the behavior of marsupials differ. Their body and habitat makes them behave in different ways. Now let's reflect. What unique feature do marsupials share? Please feel free to pause the video if you need more time. If you said a pouch, then you are correct. Marsupials all have a pouch. Why do marsupial babies stay in their mother's pouch after being born? If you said that it is because they are too small, then you are correct. As you can see in this figure, the newborn koala is very small, and so they need to continue being in the pouch so they can grow into that joey koala and then into an adult koala. So time to apply. So let's use what we learned about marsupials in a spot the fake marsupial activity, and then the goal is to figure out which of the animals in the pictures are marsupials and which one are fake. So as you can see here, in that figure, we see a kangaroo, and we know that it is a marsupial because it has a pouch. On the bottom figure, there is a lion, and we know that it doesn't have a pouch, so it is not a marsupial. There's no materials needed for this activity. There are some safety rules, so I want you to listen to and follow instructions carefully. Please keep your electronics such as your computer, your phones, or your iPads away from liquids and heat sources. Now let's begin. Is this a marsupial? I will give you a couple seconds to answer, but please feel free to pause the video if you need more time. So, by looking at this, you can tell that this animal is a bird. Now, by looking at their abdomens, we can't see a pouch. So that should be the first clue that these animals are not a marsupial. But if you can think about how these birds give birth to their offspring, they lay their eggs and then their young hatches out of it. So overall, these birds are not a marsupial. Is this a marsupial? Well, we've seen koalas throughout this video, and we can see in this image over here that there is a baby koala inside the pouch of this mother koala, and therefore, since it has a pouch, it is a marsupial. Is this a marsupial? So, by looking at it, we can look at the scales on this animal already, and we can probably infer that this is not a mammal since it's not covered in fur. So, also looking at its abdomen, we can't really see a pouch. Therefore, this is not a marsupial. This is actually a chameleon, and it is a type of reptile. Is this a marsupial? Well, we can see that it is covered in fur, so we can assume that this is a mammal, but it doesn't have a pouch. Therefore, it is not a marsupial. Is this a marsupial? Well, if we look at this picture here, we can see that it has its young inside of a pouch over there. So, since it has a pouch, it is definitely a marsupial. And so, this is a quokka, another type of marsupial. So let's reflect. Can we recognize a marsupial just based on size, color, or shape? So the answer is no, because it is very hard to actually see if an animal is a marsupial just by looking at its size, shape, or color. Sometimes we have to look at their behavior, such as with the birds laying their eggs, and also we need to see if they have a pouch because it is their defining feature. So, such as in this picture here, if you look at this, it looks like it's a tiger, but it is not. It's actually a dog. So looks can be deceiving. Two, what is the best way to tell if an animal is a marsupial? Well, first it would be best to see if an animal is a mammal first. So then after, if you can tell if it's a mammal, you can then look to see if it has a pouch, because that is the defining feature of marsupial. Thank you for engaging. If you have questions and comments, we would love to hear from you. You can email Start Science at contact@startscience.org, or you can visit our webpage at www.startscience.org.